Speakers. I'm Gavin.
I'm Abby.
Today we've got a special interview with Mike Aiello. He is Halloween Horror Nights legend.
Mastermind.
Mastermind, okay. Abby, do you want to lead us up?
Yeah, so first of all, just thought we'd get to know you. So
Yeah.
if you could tell us about your role and how it's changed over the years.
Sure.
Halloween Horror Nights.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been at Universal, it'll be 22 years next year. And I started there as a ride attendant at the Jaws attraction. I was clicking people into the ride in '96, and then from there I became a performer in a lot of shows, including Horror Nights. My first gig at Horror Nights was a character in Hotel Hell. Was the name of the.
Was I right in saying you were in a washing machine?
That's correct. Yes, I was in
where every young budding actor wants to start.
Absolutely, yeah. I jumped out of a washing machine like 100 times an hour, scaring the daylights out of guests.
Was it fun every single time?
Every time.
Yeah.
And that was really my first experience within a haunted attraction as an employee. But I had gone to haunted attractions. My dad, again, like I said, he brought me up on Classic Monsters. We used to go. There used to be an attraction in Orlando called Terror on Church Street, which was a year-round haunt that I would go to every now and then. I loved it. It was just so cool. So I started to kind of find myself really enjoying not only the attraction because it was scary and I was getting scared, but I was also really loving the detail that went into the rooms and the environments, and then going to Horror Nights as a fan, really attaching to a lot of just the way the mazes kind of worked. So being an employee, just being as a character, was my first kind of step into the backstage portion of how that maze kind of lives and breathes.
Right.
And but then so I did that, and I was a chainsaw drill team member, which is a pack of big guys that carry chainsaws that run through the park and attack people with chainsaws.
They're the worst. They're the things I hate the most. Yeah, I just get on the floor and I'm like, oh, don't hurt me.
You'd be one that they go for.
The chainsaws scare me, yeah.
So I did that for actually 2 years. And then there was a show that has been at the park for Halloween Horror Nights every year that the event has been in existence, except for the first year. And it's a show called Bill and Ted's Excellent Halloween Adventure. It's a show that stars Bill and Ted and spoofs that year's pop culture. It's a comedically based, sketch-based show.
Quite adulty, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it has a lot of adult themes. It's definitely for a grown-up crowd that likes darker humor, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I love that show, so I had kind of written my own, just as a hobby, kind of written my own draft of if I could ever write Bill and Ted, this is what the show would be.
Right.
And I used to be a blues brother in the
Oh,
park.
yeah.
So the gentleman, actually, he's grown to be one of my closest friends. He's practically a brother. His name is Michael Roddy. He was a show director at the time, but also was heavily involved in Horror Nights. He wrote and directed Bill and Ted as well. And he directed me in Blues Brothers. So I had said, hey, I've got this Bill and Ted script. Give it a read. If you like it, great. If you don't, either throw it away or let me know what you didn't like so I can learn.
Yeah.
And I get a call about 2 weeks later in the green room for Blues Brothers, and it was Michael, and he said, hey, why don't you come in next week and help me write the back half of this year's show? I said, great, awesome, I would love that. So I did that and helped him come up with some bits, and it was just one day, about 6 hours, just sitting with him. And then he had gone on to do other things that next year, and they invited me back to come in and co-write with another writer, the Bill and Ted show, but the entire show.
Wow.
And that was 2003. And,
did you feel that was on the cards? Did you know that was sort of coming?
No, absolutely not. No. For me, Universal, I was the place I was performing at. I really wanted to be an actor and just keep doing theme park stuff. And occasionally, I did some commercial work and some short films way back. But on a creative side, that never really was something that I thought I'd be doing. And when they called me, I just said, okay, I can write sketch comedy. I know how to do that. So they brought me in with another writer named Kenny Bobble, and we wrote Bill and Ted that year. We didn't direct it. There was another director, ended up putting it up on its feet. But it was my first time writing a full show from beginning to end, and it was very successful that year. So they brought me back in 2003, 2004. Then 2005, the director of the show was also kind of going his separate ways, and they brought me in more of a directorial capacity, knowing I had written the script. So in that year, they hired me on as a full-time show director for Halloween Horror Nights, mainly coming up with Bill and Ted and the beginning stages of how to write and create the mazes, which is also something I hadn't done before, but just kind of being around the group and seeing how they worked. and I have a passion for horror.
Yeah,
So
if you follow Mike on Twitter, you'll see he's not lying. He does have a passion for it.
Yeah, I love it so much. So it was kind of a natural progression for me to just to sit with the creative team and just come up with ideas on mazes and do Bill and Ted at the same time. So I wrote and directed Bill and Ted from 2006 until 2010, that show, and then did all the mazes as well with the creative team as a full-time show director. So I left performing and became just a kind of a back-of-house creative, more for Horror Nights specifically. But then something came along called The Wizarding World of Harry Potter.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Is it popular?
Apparently it is.
Okay.
And that kind of was my gateway into a larger creative capacity with Universal. I came up with all the entertainment for the original Wizarding World Hogsmeade, with that show content now it's in Japan, it's in Hollywood now.
Wow, that's cool.
So because I know the books. I'm a geek, so I was well versed in many things, including Harry Potter.
Educated.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a PhD in geekdom, and so I kind of lived, at least at that time, lived in this really neat world where I was doing Halloween Horror Nights, which is one end of this pop culture spectrum with all the fright and scare and gore in some cases, and then this awesome other end of the spectrum where I'm creating content for a children's book and a family friendly an environment in an entertainment capacity, and so I was given that responsibility, and then in 2011. They brought me on to direct a nighttime show based all around Universal Pictures. It was the centennial at that point for Universal, so they brought me on to write an entire nighttime show with fountains and projections and fireworks, all about the history of Universal.
And what's it like when you get to see it come to life? So when it's all in your head, and then everyone can.
It's amazing.
Amazing feeling.
It's amazing. Again, to see something that's physical. A couple string of letters that form a word, that form a sentence, then become a huge event.
Amazing.
And so, again, a lot of other things kind of happened. Diagon Alley, I was involved with, entertainment. And today I'm sitting here now, the Senior Director of Creative for Entertainment as a whole, creating all of the content from an entertainment standpoint for the resort.
So
including Horror Nights.
So from clicking people onto Jaws ride,
yes,
which isn't even there anymore.
No, Diagon Alley.
Your career has outlived the attraction.
Yes.
And now you're in charge of all of that. I mean, it's a real like what kids dream of, where you start at the bottom and work your way all the way up to the top. It's
Absolutely.
like it's almost like a lie.
It is. It is.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's something you put together, but
it feels completely fabricated.
Yeah.
And it's not. And
well, you can see it. You can see your progression. It's out there. It's out on the internet. It's an amazing journey, isn't it? It's a good one.
It's deeply humbling to be able to do what I get to do.
Yeah.
I don't take it for granted a single day. And a lot of it is just being respectful, humble, and being a sponge. Again, listening to people, learning from people, seeing best practices, employing some of the things you've been able to learn as well, and also collaborative, never knowing or never thinking you know more than the person sitting next to you.
Definitely.
Hey, that's hugely important in a role like this.
I do agree. You've answered my second question within the first question, which is always good. We've got one here just asking about for Halloween Horror Nights. How do you go about? What's the creative process? How do you go about?
Well, Halloween is more than a year-round creative process. We're already currently creating the 2018 event right now.
Wow.
Even while the 2017 event is still in production. So it's more than a year, and it's grown to that capacity because, as I mentioned, the 2007 year was kind of a big turning point for Horror Nights, because up until that point it had been mainly an event based around original content. Again, characters and environments that we came up with ourselves. 2007, there was a shift in that thinking because we created an event that centered around, even from a marketing standpoint, which was a first, branded content, Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface. With our icon, the event has icons in certain years where we'll create a character that is kind of the host of that year's event. Jack the Clown is probably the greatest icon that was created. Michael Roddy, who I mentioned earlier, he created that character, and he's become really an icon for the year, but also overall. I think he's pretty synonymous with Halloween Horror Nights. So he was the host, and then in his his box of toys, so to speak, were these mazes based on Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface. And that year was one of the most successful years to that point, and really changed the thinking that we can create an event that can still serve the purpose of providing new and original ideas, but also branded content. And with those brands coming in, that has lengthened the process because
almost definitely.
that's not just us anymore. You know?
You've got to get permission from and get the IPs in, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. So now you're dealing with, for even in this year's case, we've got The Shining as a maze this year. That's working with Warner Brothers and the Stanley Kubrick estate.
Do you have to work with Stephen King as well?
No, it's primarily the Kubrick estate because you've read the book. The book and the film are virtually completely separate. Again, the characters are similar, the environment is a hotel, but Stanley Kubrick really kind of took his own pathway with the film.
Like he does.
Yeah. Again, you're not going to tell Stanley Kubrick how to create a film.
No, definitely.
So we're working with Kubrick Estate, working with Warner Brothers. So that process is a fairly extensive process of approvals and really gaining the confidence of those brands as well, and being able to not only satisfy their needs of being authentic to what they have, but at the same time communicate to those brands that we are the experts in how we apply the Haunted Maze template to that brand. So it is this awesome collaborative back and forth with Warner Brothers, or in the past we've done mazes based on Walking Dead. That's with AMC. Again, so any brands we're bringing to the table, that usually starts now, even for the next year. And then treatments are between the months of, we'll open the event, and so we'll start doing treatments for the next year around
What's
September.
the treatment?
Script.
Just scripting out how the maze will flow.
It will be, the treatments are usually formatted to be a narrative that is a first-person narrative of the guest's viewpoint of what they're going to see in the room. And it's written like a story.
Right.
And then it describes the room completely. It describes the characters that are within it, the type of environment. It describes the up, down, left, and right of what guests are seeing, hearing, smelling in some cases. So we'll write that like a story,
right?
And with a lot of inspirational pictures underneath, and that'll be one page of a treatment. And then we'll break that narrative down into specific disciplines: lighting, audio, costume, makeup, rigging. Again, anything that requires a category based on that narrative is then broken out for our disciplines to be able to then see exactly their responsibility within that room.
Right.
What the lighting is. If we're in a decaying cemetery, there's probably a smell of old plant life or foliage, so we'll identify that as a need. Right. If the lighting needs to do something specific based on our actors, all the characters are completely costumed, either with masks or prosthetics, and they also have a trigger that they are able to press that can do anything we want it to do. We can have that trigger cue a sound effect so that they can time themselves with their scares.
Yeah.
We can have that trigger cue a lighting effect, or a practical moving effect, or a combination of all the three of those things at the same time. So we give our characters a lot of tools to be able to scare the guests in very different ways as someone walks through the maze.
Like a personal experience.
Exactly. Well, it's not. It breaks away from just I'm going to pop out and shake a can.
Yeah.
Which honestly works.
I bet it does. Yeah.
Absolutely works. In fact, the event was built on that scare.
I suppose the more technical it becomes, a tin can will actually in the future become more scary because you won't be ready for it, will you?
Absolutely. You can use it actually sparingly. It's like, oh my gosh, you got a tin can full of nails. Yeah. So again, that treatment is created, and that takes several months because we do 9 mazes, and each maze has a very extensive treatment. And then the production, usually construction starts around March, and that's an evolving process of one maze at a time, with construction kind of moving down almost like a train, and right behind it is the decor. Behind that is the audio, then the lighting, all kind of being installed in repetition as we get through the 9 mazes of the event. It's an amazing process. It's a well-oiled machine. Again, we're 27 years now doing this event.
And
so
most of the team stays together, I think.
Oh yeah, our design team, we've all been working together for the most part, some longer than others, for over 20 years.
Wow. Okay, so you are a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with this team since 2003, and I'm one of the newer people.
Yeah, right.
So what idea are you most proud of, or like something that's come to life that you're most happy or proud of that's happened?
Well, the overall answer to that is, for me, I love that we've got a really great group of people that honestly really like each other a lot. We're a family atmosphere of creative people, and that's all the disciplines. We all are very very in tune with each other and how each other works and the positives that every discipline brings. So the big answer is I love seeing, here's this idea, and then 8 months later going, there it is. I love that.
That's what I thought.
It never gets old, or that's what we thought. That's the other thing too. One thing I always try to impress on, even when I'm doing interviews, is I am simply the guy that gets to sit here and tell you what our team gets to do.
Right.
This is a huge amount of people that are involved in making this event. I am a cog in that wheel that fortunately gets to be the guy to talk on camera about it, but in no way am I more or less than anybody that's working on this event. I mean, we need everybody at their peak to be able to get this to happen the way it does. So I really love that. And then selfishly, there are some things within the mazes that we've done in the past where I'm like, I have always wanted to see that, and now I can. Like we did an American Werewolf in London, which is probably top 3 great movies in my opinion. Horror movies, one of my favorites. I love the story. I love the blend of comedy and horror. That was really revolutionary at that point. John Landis was really one of the first to kind of employ those tactics. Where you're seeing this awful transformation, and then you cut to a figure of Mickey Mouse, which is in the film. I mean, we had that figure in the maze. I mean, again, it's Universal, but we were being authentic to the scene.
Yeah, definitely.
But that juxtaposition was really unique for that movie. So for me, that was one of my favorite things was building the wolf practically. Like we built a puppet based exactly on Rick Baker's designs, and we had 6 of them in the maze, all puppeteered, and seeing that like in real life, something I never thought I'd see. So there is an awesome selfishness to our team to go. When we're choosing brands, we're like, man,
what about this one?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Everyone wants this one, don't they?
Boy, I'd love to spend a night in the Overlook one night. Can we do that? Which you can actually. You can go to the Stanleyville Hotel in the States and stay in in what was inspired by the Overlook. But for us, a lot of the creative on the team, it's like, man, I would really love to see that wolf. I'd love to go through the tube scene from American Werewolf and get attacked by the wolf. Can I be the businessman? In that scene. So that's really cool.
I did that house.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, nice.
I did. Yeah, it's a coincidence. Yeah, but I did that house and it was amazing. I also I came to an event that you were actually at, but you were via Skype. And John Landis was in the
were you?
room.
Did you see the screening, right? Where he said I looked like the Wizard of Oz. It was like this weird Wizard of Oz thing. Yeah.
So that's cool. It was a really good house. You probably don't even know the film. I think you were you might not have even been born. We should be doing that. We're the old one.
I'm so young.
Yeah, but you know what? You bring up a good point. The other thing I love about Halloween Horror Nights is there is almost this reverse tendency that happens with people that may not have seen American Werewolf. They'll come to the event, they'll go through the maze and go, I gotta go watch that movie.
Yeah.
And there's this awesome kind of reverse discovery of the brand via the maze that then makes you want to go watch that show or see that movie.
Do you feel that once Universal have revealed the houses, do you think it's a benefit to watch the content before you visit?
I think to give yourself some context, for example, it can live in both realms, I think, because I've heard it from both parties. A maze like American Horror Story.
That's what I was going to say.
We did that last year. It was our most popular maze in the event's history, which is huge. That's a big deal for us because there was a lot of time and effort put into that maze to make sure. And obviously necessary because Fox and Ryan Murphy were very particular with how it needs to be translated.
Yeah.
So, and you've got a show like that is not only within its template is so diverse given every season, but then even the storylines and the characters are so layered. Mm-hmm. So I would say that would probably be amazing. I would think or assume that would be something you'd want to watch prior to coming to the event because it'll really give you good context of what you're seeing. But that was kind of blown out of the water when I was talking with people exiting the maze when they were walking out going, I have to watch Murder House. I never saw the first season. I need to watch it now. Well, did you still enjoy it? Yeah, it was great. I want to watch it. So I'm like, so it's this kind of also kind of down the middle.
Yeah.
There are people who like to come to the event completely cold just to be surprised by the mazes, and if there's something they like, they'll watch it. But I would say there's a majority that have probably already seen everything that we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's popular culture,
Yes.
pretty much.
Yep. I mean, it's in the event for a reason because of its popularity,
Exactly.
or it's how indelible it is within pop culture, like the more classic films.
I suppose it's a nice thing as well. Like you get someone, for example, like Abby, who's like, what are you like, 13, something like that? 13. You're probably promoting a film that she wouldn't have seen, and will probably go and watch. So it's a nice thing to be able to films that we watched growing up that you thought, like American Werewolf in London at the time when that wolf came out back in the day. I thought it was real. Like I was scared. I always said a naughty word. That's how scared I was.
Yeah, it was intense.
But you watch it now, and you're like, you can appreciate how it is. But you'd probably be CGI'd now.
And there's also obviously ones from the generation of like sort of my age, like The Walking Dead and American Horror Story. So it's like both ends of.
Yeah, and we construct the event with that mentality. We want contemporary brands in the event to be able to keep being current. But we also, we try, where applicable, we try every year to at least have one or two mazes in there that represent kind of where horror has led us to. The American Werewolves, Halloween. We've done mazes based on The Thing. Classic monsters. Again, we've done several versions.
That's a good example.
We did a classic monster maze that was entirely in black and white and lit by invisible UV paint. So when lightning fired, the entire room lit up, kind of almost a film strobe.
That's clever.
We did Creature and Wolfman and Dracula, Frankenstein, all in their original looks. And that's another one where it's like, I hope that's a gateway for people to go, man, I want to revisit or for the first time appreciate that 1920s, 1930s Universal Classic Monsters, because that's where it all started. I mean, and even I'm a huge fan of the Hammer horror. Horror of Frankenstein and or Curse of Frankenstein, Horror of Dracula. Awesome movies. The color palettes are just so cool.
Didn't you ask me yesterday if Dracula was a horror film?
I've never seen it.
No, so you can revisit now, can't you? Go back and see. Is there any? Well, the question actually came from Carl back in our office, and he wanted to know if there was a brilliant idea that you've had that unfortunately you haven't been able to sort of get going, or couldn't get the IP, or it just was too big an idea.
Not that I can give you an idea that we tried to implement that didn't turn out the way we'd hoped. I'm never too above that. We had a loftier idea for a Walking Dead for one of our Walking Dead mazes a couple years ago. There was a great sequence in the I can't remember what season it was, but they were on the roof of a building and they fell through. It was completely flooded and there were walkers in the water. We had this idea of trying to do pools on either side of the guests as they were walking through to give the idea that maybe the water level was at waist height for them. Again, obviously they're not getting wet, but they're walking in between these. And it didn't turn out, it wasn't the best room in the maze, I don't think.
I've seen one like that over here, and they used smoke and then blue laser lights. Was it? And it did kind of work, but you knew that it wasn't.
We wanted water because we also wanted to have walkers be able to come out of the water. And it kind of looked like hot tubs on either side. I remember I was walking through going, well, that's kind of done, so we'll leave that. Let's go to the next room.
Cool. Right, well, that is bang in the middle.